Hi, everyone. Priscilla here from the Geospatial Risk Summit, and I'm joined by Elizabeth Foughty. Elizabeth, hi, welcome.
Hey, thank you. Excited to be here.
Thanks. I'll have you introduce yourself.
Excellent. So as Priscilla mentioned, I'm Elizabeth Foughty, and she pronounced my name correctly, which is fantastic. I have been working sort of in and around the geospatial, remote sensing, insurance space for most of my career. I started work at NASA, working in a data mining AI team organization. And then a few years later, made the jump to insurance and spent a number of years at RMS, now Moody's. And then I moved into startups. And I've worked for insurance startups. I've worked for other high-tech startups. And a couple of years ago, decided to move into my own consulting practice. So now I consult at the intersection of insurance, geospatial, remote sensing, AI things, which is a really fun space to be in. And one of the reasons I'm really excited about this upcoming conference.
Fantastic. You could see very well why you were tapped to be moderator of panel number 3, which is called Portfolio Risk and Response, Assets, Finance, and Insurance. So that sets up for a question that I want you to answer, which is how does geospatial play into understanding of portfolio risk and aggregation?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I'm gonna harken back many, many years ago to the first time somebody asked me what risk means to me. And this was actually during my interview when I went to go interview at RMS a long, long time ago after I'd been working at NASA. And I thought coming from NASA, I had a good understanding of risk. They're always trying to mitigate risk. They're sending, airplanes in the air, things into space, and they want to mitigate risk. But I realized in that moment that I had no idea what he was actually getting at. And I cannot honestly say what I responded at the time because I was just a bit like thrown by the question. But it was a great question, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it afterwards. And honestly, I think part of the reason I ended up taking the job was he had just asked me this question that seemed very much out of left field. When I ended up joining RMS and began to understand risk, and specifically insurance risk and pooled risk and all of these things, one of the things that really caught my attention the most, this was a good while after, but not so long after 9/11, that wasn't still pretty fresh in people's minds. And there was still a lot of discussion around like the aggregate risk that a lot of insurers had faced when that event happened, just because of the aggregation of perils. Insurers who had taken out massive amounts, had life insurance policies for corporations based in that area, and then also various other types of property risk and business interruption policies, and how they were really devastated by that event, on top of the obvious devastation of that event. And then subsequently, events like Hurricane Sandy a few years later. And it really begins to make you realize how much the science of where and the peril model science of catastrophe modeling really come together to understand a risk that communities and organizations have. And I found that just really, really fascinating, how important it is to like overlay on a map where all the things you might be underwriting are, to use an insurance example, and then understand the different perils that could possibly impact them, and then all impact them at the same time or within 1 year. And that's really hard to do, which makes it a really interesting problem to solve. So I have just been fascinated by that for my entire career since I kind of learned about that. And I'm really glad that day, a number of years ago, somebody was like, what is risk? And I didn't know. And I was like, well, I knew, but not the way I know now. They asked the question and it intrigued me enough to sort of launch me into this career that I really never thought I would have. So I'm excited to talk to the experts we have on this panel to get more into their experiences and what they've learned about it and how we can address it more and better leveraging geospatial tools.
Fantastic answer, Elizabeth. I relate to this so much. I spend so much of my time thinking about these kinds of things, how all these different pieces layer on top of each other in space and time. Yeah, such great stuff. Well,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you. And we welcome you. Look forward to you joining the summit up on stage. And I hope you all tune in and see Elizabeth's panel. Thanks.
thank you.